Hello, my name is Ash and welcome to another video. In this video, I'm going to be answering some of your questions about what it's like to be on a cruise ship with no guests. So over the last couple of months, I've had quite a lot of questions about everything, pretty much. Disney Cruise Line, coronavirus, what it's like to work for Disney Cruise Line, what it was like to be on the ship during the coronavirus. So what I've done is I've split everything into two categories. First category is working with Disney Cruise Line questions. The second category is working on a cruise ship during the pandemic and with no guests. So this video is going to be just answering those questions about what it was like to be on the ship during the coronavirus and when we have no guests. And then the next video will be what it's like to work just generally for Disney Cruise Line, my job and things like that. So first question, how did you find being on the ship with no guests? Straight up honest answer, I loved it. It was amazing. Like honestly, not that I don't like guests. I love the guests. The guests come first. Guests are amazing. But it was so much fun to work on the ship. You got a chance to kind of really experience what the ship has, because we don't really get to experience what the ship has like really on a relaxed setting. You know, it's always so busy, so many people, and you have to be very careful as crew where you go, what you do. So having no guests and when we weren't working meant we have like the run of the ship. I personally loved it, and I cannot think of a better place to be during a lockdown. The whole world going through this, the best place to be, my personal opinion, I know some people won't agree, but is going to be on a cruise ship. And I found it very easy to slip into that world of having no guests and the freedom to just have the ship and go where we wanted to go. There'll be a big period now between when I left the ship and when I'll go back to the ship, which means I can restart fresh without having the worries of walking around with my phone out and on deck and just forgetting the policies of guests come first, because they do. Did I still get paid? Yes, I still got paid because I was still under contract. At the time that I was on the ship, the people whose contracts were running out or about to run out, they were all being sent home. So people who still had a week on their contract left, or 2 weeks on their contract, or 3 weeks on their contract, they were sending home, and then Disney were just paying them for the last few weeks of their contract when they got home. So they were just paying them out for the rest of their contract and sending them home. People like me at the time, my contract technically doesn't finish till June 20th, or didn't finish till June 21st. Obviously, that's still like a month away. So I was still working and I was still getting paid while I was on the ship. The week after I left the ship, nobody left after me, as there was travel restrictions. So that was the point when people started to run out of contract. Their contract was finishing, but they were still stuck on the ship. So those people weren't getting paid. Whereas the people who still have contract lengths that were still running, and some people are still on that ship right now with their contract still running, they are still getting paid, and they're still doing minimal work. I mean, we weren't even working that much when I was on the ship, and I doubt they're doing hardly any work now, depending on what department you're on. As I work in youth activities, which is part of the entertainment team, in all fairness, in a situation like this, the entertainment team is probably the most useless team on the ship. I'm sorry if anybody else watching this and they are part of the youth activities team or entertainment team, but we are, because our sole job is guest orientated. We are fully for the guests. People who work in dining, the chefs, the cooks and things like that, the servers, they still are working because they're still crew to serve, you know, so they're still fully very important. The people that work in the galley, that clean all the plates and do all that type of stuff, they are very important. They're still working because there's crew still on the ship. So their jobs are very important. Our job's not so much when it comes to this kind of situation. That kind of links to another question, which was what did we do for work while we were on the ship with no guests? And at first, we were very busy. I say very busy. We were only working 5-6 hours a day, which normally we work 9 to 10 hours a day with like 1.5 hour break. Here we were working 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day with like an hour break. So we were loving life, living it to the max. We were cleaning pretty much straight away. We were doing very in-depth cleans of the youth activity spaces. So we were cleaning a lot of stuff. Like we were proper on our hands and knees and just scrubbing everything. Like we have Andy's room, which is like a Toy Story room, and there's a big like Rex in there, and people are literally like scrubbing underneath Rex, cleaning his teeth. We have a Star Wars room with a Millennium Falcon, so the kids can drive the Millennium Falcon. And there's lots of buttons and levers and stuff, and there were people literally scrubbing, and in between all the little like just little cracks, every little crack was being scrubbed, and it was crazy. And like we have these white stools as well, which the kids stand on to be able to put their hands in the hand washer or to get like a drink from the water fountain. And I sat there with like Heather, one of my friends on there, and we literally had toothpicks and plastic forks, and we were scrubbing the grime and dirt off like around the edges of these stools. Like, go on, Heather, get in there deep. Get in there deep. Get them marks off. Years worth of marks. Picking it out. So it really was a huge team effort to clean so much of that space. And then we also did some random jobs as well, stuff that we wouldn't normally do. The ship needed to do tests of the PA systems. So the PA systems, like a little box in each cabin, which gives out emergency broadcast or just like general announcements into each cabin. And so we at Youth Activities helped the technicians on the ship. We went to every single cabin on the ship to listen to see if we could hear the PA system, the music. They were playing music, like just any music they were playing from the bridge into the PA system, and we were literally going around the Youth Activities and checking to see if we could hear. I did the crew cabins. We were literally just going in, listening to them. Even the captain's cabin got checked by a Youth Activities person. But we did every single guest cabin, every single crew cabin. I've never done like a question and answer video like this, so I don't know if this is like a good way of doing it. I don't know if I'm talking too fast, or if I'm not explaining stuff fully, or if I'm getting jumbled up. I don't know. Hopefully it's coming across alright, and when I watch it back I go, oh yeah, that's okay. But if it's not, I apologise, and I hope that you're getting the information that I'm trying to get across. Social distancing, that's another question. What were the social distancing guidelines on board? We did have social distancing guidelines. I know sometimes on my videos previously it might look like there was not social guidelines. We got to a point where there were dots on the floor when we went to eat, so we had to step on those dots. We had to be 2 meters apart, which took forever to try and get food because it's a buffet style, and you just had to wait for so long. We also were only allowed to have 4 people like in an elevator at a time, so that took a long time to try and get in the elevators, but we were allowed to use guest elevators. Made life so much easier for us. But you had to stand in each corner. Each 4 corners of the elevator had to have 1 person in it, and you weren't allowed to have any more than 4. They were very strict on that. Due to kind of like the social distancing guidelines, all of the below deck crew areas were closed, and everything was kind of moved upstairs and outside. So normally we have a crew bar, which is below decks where guests can't go. It's a very small space, and it's all inside. But because of the social distancing guidelines, they moved our crew bar to outside, so the outside bar, which is normally a guest bar, became our crew bar. Did we get to live in guest rooms? Well, that is a very contentious subject and a sore matter for me, because I did not get to live in a guest room. Our crew cabins are very, very small, so what Disney decided to do was to move one person into a guest room, into a stateroom, and the other person stay in the crew cabin. And then the idea was that after so many days they would switch, and Jamie, my roommate, he was the lucky one to get pulled out, and so he went to live in the stateroom and I remained in my crew cabin. And all I wanted was to stay on the ship as long as I could, so I could live in the crew cabin and have a balcony and wake up in the morning and feel the sea breeze on my face and take a bath in the very tiny small bathtubs in there. So the day I would have moved into that room and enjoyed that lovely piece of guest luxury, I got sent home. So I'm still very, very bitter about that. So what did we eat? That was another question that was asked. What did the crew get served during this time period? So our normal crew mess was actually closed, because the crew mess is again below deck where guests can't go, and it's inside. It's a big space, but it's not. It's a very small, cramped space, and it's busy on a normal work day, and we all work in different shifts and times. It's still very busy. So imagine it being like a normal day for lunch and dinner when most of us aren't even working. So they moved our crew mess into the guest buffet, which is cabanas. If you've ever been on a Disney Cruise Line, it's at the back of the ship. And normally, we don't get to eat in cabanas really, but the food they were serving us wasn't even, it was guest food. It was nice, it was pizzas and stuff like that, vegetables and just nice stuff.
Let's get a lovely photo of you, that's fun. Oh, that's sexy. I'm also videoing it.
Remy, one of the nicer restaurants on the ship that people have to pay for. The Remy chefs are doing pastas and stuff. They were cooking pastas in front of us and stuff on occasions to really treat us. So it was good. I ate a lot of, again, it felt a little bit like I was on vacation because I ate a lot of food, ice cream and just things like that. So it was better. I'm not saying that the food normally isn't very good, but the food in the crew mess is very different to the food guests get served anyway. As for coronavirus, in cabanas we were getting served the guest food, like we had sushi, we had all sorts of stuff and it was really nice, and breakfast was really good as well. I don't normally eat breakfast normally on a normal work day, but during the coronavirus we're having eggs benedict, Mickey waffles, pancakes, bacon. Oh, it was beautiful. It was really good. So the food during the coronavirus period was a lot better than we would normally get served. So what happened to your contract? Were you furloughed? No, I wasn't furloughed. Nobody on the cruise line that works on the ship was furloughed. All of our contracts were either terminated, like mine was, or the contracts were just seen out to the end of the contract and then not renewed, because we get renewal contracts every time we go on vacation and we come back, which I'll talk about in another video. So I've not been furloughed or anything like that. I'm not getting any payments from Disney Cruise Line at all. I was just terminated and sent back to the UK. Are all crew members back home now, and how did they get home? No, not all crew members are back home. All 4 ships are still full of crew members from all around the world. What they did do is they spent an afternoon switching crews around. So the Disney Magic got all the Europeans and some South Africans and some other nationalities on that ship, and they sailed to Dover here, which is literally 30 minutes from where I am. They're in England and they're docked in England. All the English people got off, and I think the people on that ship are still, from South Africa and stuff, are still waiting to get flights back home. Disney Fantasy took crew members back to Mexico. They have gone back to like St. Vincent. They've gone to, I think they went to Honduras and stuff like that. So they're basically like a little taxi service. They're just going around to as many countries as they can and getting their staff, getting the crew off. So Trinidad and Tobago was like the Fantasy's last place they went to. They eventually got crew off there. So they're still working on getting all the crew home. I don't think all the crew will get home. So there's a good chance that people will still be on the ship by the time we come back into operation again. Even if that's like still another 3 months, 4 months in the future, there will still be people on the ship who haven't got home, and they probably won't go home until we go back into operation and people come and replace them. Do I think Disney Cruise Line have looked after crew? Yes, I do. I think Disney Cruise Line have done a very good job of looking after crew who are still on the cruise ship. When I was on the cruise ship, I can't complain about anything in regards to my welfare, how well I was fed, and just kind of being looked after. I think Disney Cruise Line did do a very good job, and they probably have done a better job than some other cruise lines, some other cruise companies in regards to our own welfare. Obviously, in hindsight and things like that, I do think Disney Cruise Line could have done better with communicating to people who aren't on the ship. Just from my own experience, since I was sent home, it was over a month before I even heard anything from Disney Cruise Line. I never got anything to say, hey, how are you doing? This is what's happening, just to keep you updated. It took over a month, nearly 2 months, a month and a half, whatever, to say what they'd already just said in the press release, like the day before. So that's kind of annoying, I think, for me personally, for a company that I'm supposed to work for, to have to find out about what they're doing from a press release more than just their bothering to send me a quick email just to keep me updated, which would have been nice. I would have appreciated that. But on the ship, I think they did a fantastic job of looking after crew. Absolutely. I'm not paid to make decisions about the cruise line and the stuff like that, but I do think maybe Disney Cruise Line were a little bit slow to react to the situation. I think in Disney Cruise Line's heads, and again, this is not me giving any kind of insight operationally, because I have no idea what they were thinking or what they were doing or the decisions they were making, but I do think they might have been a little bit slow to react to this situation, because Disney Cruise Line are very good at being competitive and very good at making money. And I think what they wanted to do was just hold off of sending their crew home, because they wanted that if we could go back into operation, they wanted to be the first, I think, to go back into operation. They want to be the first to be like, hey, look at us, look how quick we are, we're fantastic. But in doing so, I think what has happened is that they missed, there was travel restrictions coming, and so they kind of missed their chance to send a good majority of their crew home. And Disney Cruise Line is one of the smallest cruise companies in the world with regards to number of ships in their fleet and how many crew members they have. So when you think about how many crew members Disney have, they could have definitely been a lot quicker. But again, that's just my personal opinion, and I have no idea about the frustrations and the circumstances and the decision making that had happened or had to happen shoreside. So I'm not criticising them, but yeah, you know, in my head, I think they could have done it a little bit better. But I think that is it in terms of me answering any more of these questions, because there's probably a good chance that you now have more questions that I didn't answer, or questions that have just spurned off stuff that I've said. If you do have more questions about this period, you know, being on the cruise ship with no guests, please ask me down below in the comments, and I'll reply and I'll answer your questions down there. And then obviously my next video will be answering questions about what it's like to work for Disney Cruise Line in general, my job as Youth Activities. So if you've got questions for that as well, those questions you can ask me down below. So thank you for watching. I am Ash. My voice is a little bit creaky. It's almost as creaky and stuff as this chair. Thank you for watching. Until next week, remember, stay safe and have a good week.